Rosa Bellini, 28 years old, quietly cleans the windows of the library at the Braganza estate in upstate New York. Her movements are delicate, almost reverent, as she observes the boy in the wheelchair. Louis, 8 years old, sits alone among stacks of books, staring into nothing with empty eyes. Rosa can't resist. She begins singing softly, an Italian song her nonna taught her in childhood. Nina nana ninao, bimbo ai ludo. Her sweet voice echoes gently through the library. Louis lifts his head for the first time. His eyes, dead for 2 years, begin to shine. He watches Rosa as if seeing an angel. His lips move, trying to follow the melody. Rosa notices and approaches slowly, continuing to sing. Louis watches her intensely and then, like a miracle, whispers in a fragile but clear voice, "Rosa, mia maestra." The young woman almost drops her cloth. Tears well up in her eyes. "Ciao, bambino," she responds in Italian, kneeling beside the wheelchair. Hurried footsteps echo through the corridor. Pablo Braganza, 38 years old, stops at the library door and freezes. His son, who hasn't spoken a word in 2 years, is talking in Italian with the waitress. "Keep singing," Pablo whispers, his voice choked with emotion. Margaret Santos appears behind Pablo, her face twisted with rage and panic. She watches the scene with horror, realizing her position of power is threatened. "What's happening here?" Margaret asks with a sharp voice. Pablo doesn't take his eyes off his son. "She made my son speak." Rosa stands nervously, sensing the tension. Louis reaches out toward her, murmuring again, "Rosa." His eyes shine with a lucidity he hasn't shown in 2 years. Pablo approaches, still in shock. "Who are you? And how did you make my son speak?" Margaret Santos, 50 years old, bursts into the library with the fury of a wounded beast. Her small, calculating eyes shine with rage as she observes Rosa, still kneeling beside Louis. "These are cheap tricks," Margaret screams, pointing an accusing finger at Rosa. "Mr. Pablo, this woman is using manipulation techniques on the boy." Rosa stands slowly, her cheeks burning with shame. "I was just singing, ma'am." "Singing in Italian." Margaret laughs cruelly. "Very convenient. Where would a simple waitress learn the language of the doctors who treated Louis?" She turns to Pablo, her voice gaining a venomous tone. "Sir, this is Rosa Bellini. She lives in a rundown apartment in the Bronx and supports an invalid mother." Pablo observes Rosa with renewed interest, but Margaret continues her relentless attack. "I'm sure she researched Louis on the internet, memorized some Italian words to impress you." Margaret walks around Rosa like a vulture. These women are all the same. See a rich widowed man and start their dirty little games. Rosa lowers her head, swallowing the humiliation. She needs this job. Her mother depends on the money for expensive medications. "Margaret," Pablo intervenes gently but firmly. "She made my son speak for the first time in 2 years." "A coincidence." Margaret stomps her foot. "Louis was probably going to speak today anyway. I've taken care of him for 15 years. I know every bit of progress he makes." The estate staff crowd at the door, whispering and watching the spectacle. Rosa feels the glances of pity and curiosity burning her skin. Louis watches everything from his chair, his eyes going from Rosa to Margaret. For the first time in 2 years, he shows real emotion, frowning as he perceives the cruelty in the housekeeper's voice. "Go back to your work, Rosa," Margaret orders with contempt. "And don't you dare approach the boy again without my express permission." Rosa bows silently and leaves the library, but Margaret whispers venomously in her ear, "If you continue with these tricks, you'll regret it bitterly, dear." Pablo Braganza paces nervously through his office, phone in hand. On the other end of the line, a private detective notes his instructions. "I want to know everything about Rosa Bellini. Where she lived, where she worked, why she speaks Italian, and especially..." Pablo hesitates. "Also investigate the medical treatments Louis received since the accident. Something isn't adding up." Meanwhile, in the estate's kitchen, Rosa observes Margaret preparing Louis's evening medications. The housekeeper handles several bottles with suspicious familiarity, mixing liquids with calculated precision. "Since when have you been handling the boy's medications?" Rosa asks innocently while organizing the dishes. "Since the accident that left him this way," Margaret responds defensively. When Louis stopped talking, I took complete charge of his medical care. The doctors trust me. In flashback, we see 2 years ago. Louis suffered a car accident where he lost his mother. Traumatized, he stopped speaking. Margaret saw the perfect opportunity. She began altering medical prescriptions, increasing doses of anxiolytics and sedatives to keep the boy dependent and apathetic. Dr. Carvalho, Louis's neurologist, had recommended gradual reduction of medications and music therapies 6 months ago. Margaret intercepted the report, lying to Pablo that the doctor said Louis was getting worse. Rosa notices that Louis always becomes drowsy and confused after taking the medications. But today, in the morning, before the medications, the boy was alert and responsive when she sang to him. "How many medications does he take per day?" Rosa asks, feigning innocent curiosity. "5 different ones. Anxiolytics, antidepressants, mood stabilizers." Margaret responds quickly, hiding the bottles. "Complex things that a simple person wouldn't understand." Rosa observes discreetly. "Many bottles have dosages far too high for a child." Her maternal instinct awakens a terrible suspicion. That afternoon, when Margaret leaves for the pharmacy, Rosa sits with Louis again in the library. The boy is visibly more alert between doses. "Come ti senti, bambino?" she asks gently in Italian. "Meglio senza medicine?" Louis responds clearly, surprising himself. "Better without medicines." Rosa freezes. An 8-year-old child wouldn't say this unless he knew the medications were harming him. What medications is Margaret really giving him? Rosa whispers to herself. A terrifying suspicion taking form. Rome, 5 years ago. Rosa Bellini, then 23 years old, walks confidently through the corridors of the San Giuseppe Institute, one of the most respected schools for special children in Europe. She carries a leather folder and radiates the authority of a specialized teacher. Dottoressa Bellini, a colleague, greets her. "How is Marco today?" "Extraordinary." Rosa smiles radiantly. He can already form complex sentences in 3 languages. Marco Antonelli, 8 years old, severely autistic, was her greatest challenge and pride. Rosa developed a revolutionary method using multilingual music to break neurological barriers. In 1 year, Marco evolved from nonverbal to a brilliant, communicative boy. Rosa was descended from Italian immigrants, raised bilingual by her nonna. Her passion for languages led her to study in Europe, where she specialized in child neurological development. On that terrible day, Marco was anxious. A storm was approaching, and he always became agitated with weather changes. During recess, a cat got lost in the school's wet courtyard. Marco, obsessed with saving animals, fled from supervision. Rosa ran after him through Rome's slippery streets. "Marco, fermati, per favore," she screamed desperately. The boy ran blindly toward a busy avenue, chasing the terrified cat. Rosa almost reached him. Her fingers grazed his backpack when Marco stepped into the street without looking. The truck couldn't brake on the wet pavement. The accident wasn't Rosa's fault, but she was destroyed. Italian media sensationalized it. Experimental method questioned after tragedy. Families withdrew their children. Colleagues avoided her. Her brilliant career crumbled. Rosa returned to America traumatized and financially broken. Working as a waitress was her self-imposed penance, a way to punish herself, hiding her talents. In the present, at the Braganza estate, Rosa observes Louis sleeping heavily after Margaret's medications. She whispers in Italian, "I failed with Marco. I can't fail with you too, Piccolo Angelo." But there's something familiar about Louis. When he's alert, he demonstrates the same sensitivity and intelligence Marco had. Rosa realizes she can discreetly apply her techniques, using Italian songs as a bridge. In the drawer of her simple dresser, hidden under humble clothes, are diplomas that could save Louis: specialization in multilingual therapy, certification in child neurological development, knowledge that could revolutionize his recovery but which she keeps buried out of guilt and shame. "Perhaps," she murmurs, gently touching Louis's sleeping forehead, "you'll be my second chance to do good." The Braganza estate buzzes with elegant activity. Pablo organized a dinner for 20 couples from New York's elite, potential investors in his new philanthropic project. Crystals shine under expensive chandeliers, and the aroma of gourmet food perfumes the refined air. Rosa works discreetly, serving champagne and organizing details. Margaret watches her like a predator, planning her destruction. During the cleaning of the guest bathrooms, socialite Viviane Martinez, completely drunk, removes her diamond ring to wash her hands and forgets it on the marble sink. Rosa finds the valuable jewel and immediately goes down to return it. Mrs. Martinez forgot this in the bathroom, Rosa says honestly, extending the ring. Margaret smiles like a serpent. How responsible of you. Leave it with me. I'll return it personally. 20 minutes later, while the guests savor the main course, Margaret silently climbs to the staff quarters and plants the ring in Rosa's underwear drawer among her most personal items. Ladies and gentlemen, Margaret announces theatrically upon returning, interrupting conversations about expensive wines. I regret to inform you that we've discovered a thief in our house. The guests exchange scandalized glances. Pablo frowns, confused but concerned about his reputation. Our waitress Rosa stole Viviane's dear diamond ring, Margaret declares, pointing to the socialite who hadn't even noticed it was missing. I've suspected small thefts for weeks. That's impossible, Rosa protests, appearing horrified at the room's entrance. I delivered the ring to you myself. What an absurd accusation. Margaret feigns indignation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all verify this slander. The humiliating procession climbs the stairs. Rosa feels her face burning under the elite's judgmental stares. Margaret opens the drawer with perverse drama, removing the ring like planted evidence. My God, Viviane exclaims. I hadn't even noticed. I didn't steal it, Rosa whispers, tears of humiliation streaming down. Someone put this here. Of course you'd say that, a guest murmurs. They always make excuses. Pablo observes in silence, torn. Luis's progress was undeniable, but the social pressure and evidence paralyze him. His reputation before important investors is at stake. Rosa, he finally says, avoiding her pleading eyes. Get your things and leave my house now. Mr. Pablo, Rosa begs desperately. My mother is dying. I need this job. Leave, Pablo repeats, his voice breaking internally. From the second-floor window, Luis watches Rosa being expelled. For the first time in 2 years, tears roll down his face and he whispers almost inaudibly, Rosa, non andar via. Don't go. Rosa walks through the streets of the Bronx with a bag of clothes, her only possession. The scorching sun contrasts with the cold in her heart. 3 days have passed since she was expelled from the estate, and each door that closes is a new blow to her dignity. We're not hiring, the owner of a mansion in Westchester says dryly, observing Rosa from head to toe. And frankly, after what we heard about you, Margaret was efficient. She spread through the elite's WhatsApp groups that Rosa was a compulsive, unstable thief. Every wealthy family in New York already knows her reputation. At the public hospital, Rosa holds the cold hand of her mother, Donna Bellini, 60 years old, who's wasting away in a precarious bed. Uncontrolled diabetes is slowly stealing her life. Daughter, are you okay? Donna asks with a weak voice, noticing Rosa's red eyes. I am, Mama, just a little tired. Rosa forces a smile, hiding the desperation. Her mother's medications cost $800 per month. Without salary, how will she pay? Mrs. Bellini? The nurse appears with a paper in hand. This month's bill is overdue. If you don't settle it by Friday, we'll have to transfer her to another hospital. Rosa feels the world collapse. Another hospital means certain death. She considers selling the few pieces of furniture she owns, but it wouldn't even cover a week of treatment. At the hospital exit, Rosa observes a poster. Rome, promotional flights. Maybe it's time to return to Italy, accept complete defeat. At least there she could work as a teacher again, even with her tarnished reputation. Her phone rings. Unknown number. Rosa, Pablo's voice is tense, almost desperate. You need to come back now. Mr. Braganza. Louis, he stopped eating since you left. He doesn't speak. Doesn't react to anything. The doctors are worried. Pablo makes a heavy pause. Please, my son is dying. Rosa returns to the Braganza estate with her heart divided between hope and apprehension. Pablo receives her in the library where Louis lies apathetic in his chair, staring into emptiness like in the worst days after the accident. He hasn't eaten anything solid in 3 days. Pablo explains, his voice loaded with guilt. He refuses all medications, pushes away anyone who tries to help him. The doctors talk about forced hospitalization. Rosa approaches the chair and whispers in Italian, "Ciao, piccolo principe." Louis slowly raises his eyes. For the first time in days, a spark of life appears on his face. He extends a trembling hand toward her. "Rosa, sei tornata," he murmurs weakly. "You came back." Pablo watches the miracle happen again, tears welling in his eyes. "I was wrong. Forgive me." "Mr. Braganza," Rosa says firmly, "if you want me to truly help Louis, I need total freedom to use my methods. No interference. Anything." Pablo agrees desperately. "I'll offer triple your previous salary." Margaret watches from the door, her face twisted with hatred. She lost the first battle, but the war was far from over. "And another condition," Rosa continues, looking directly at Margaret. "I want to review all of Louis's medications with his doctor. I need to understand exactly what he's receiving." "That's unnecessary," Margaret protests. "I've handled the medication for 2 years." "Margaret," Pablo interrupts with a steel voice, "Rosa will have total authority over my son's treatment. You will cooperate completely." The housekeeper clenches her teeth but agrees with a forced smile. Inside, she plans to accelerate Rosa's destruction. "Very well." Rosa kneels beside Louis and begins singing softly in Italian. The boy immediately relaxes, his features softening. "If I manage to help Louis," Rosa looks directly at Pablo, "you'll have to listen to me about everything I discover without questioning." Agreed, Pablo accepts, not imagining that this promise would change everything. Rosa works discreetly with Louis in the library, away from Margaret's vigilant eyes. She uses techniques she developed in Italy, multilingual word games, songs with specific rhythms, synchronized breathing exercises. "Respira con me, Louis," she whispers in Italian. "Inspira, espira bene così." Louis follows perfectly, his eyes shining with growing intelligence. In just 2 days, he's already forming complex sentences, alternating between English and Italian. Progress that should take months. "Rosa, perché mi sento meglio quando non prendo le medicine la mattina?" Louis asks quietly. "Why do I feel better when I don't take medicines in the morning?" Rosa frowns. An 8-year-old child shouldn't make this connection alone. "Come lo sai, bambino? When Margaret forgets to give me the early medicines, my head feels clearer," Louis explains with childlike seriousness. Like a fog lifts. Margaret watches from afar, her paranoia growing. She can't hear the conversations, but she clearly sees Louis's extraordinary progress. Each word he pronounces is a threat to her control. During lunch, Pablo joins them, amazed by his son's transformation. "Papà, Rosa mi insegna a pensare in modo diverso," Louis says animatedly. "Rosa teaches me to think differently." "What kind of thinking?" Pablo asks, smiling for the first time in years. "When I sing in Italian, I can remember things," Louis explains. "I remember Mama. I remember when I talked before." Rosa and Pablo exchange significant looks. The child was describing recovery of traumatic memories through multilingual stimuli. "Mr. Pablo," Rosa says carefully, "I would very much like to speak with Dr. Carvalho about Louis's current medication. He shows signs that he may be receiving inadequate doses." Margaret, who was serving lunch, drops the plate with a crash. "Sorry, how clumsy," she murmurs, but her eyes flash with rage. That afternoon, Louis whispers to Rosa when they're alone. "Rosa, sometimes I pretend to be more confused than I am." "Perché?" Rosa asks, surprised. "Because when I show I'm getting better, Margaret gets angry and increases the medicines," Louis reveals with frightening innocence. Rosa hugs the boy, her heart tightening. The child developed defense mechanisms against the housekeeper herself. In Pablo's office, private detective Jose Carlos hands over a bulky envelope. "Mr. Braganza, here's everything about Rosa Bellini. Prepare yourself, because it's surprising." Pablo opens the dossier with nervous hands. Photos show Rosa in elegant uniforms, surrounded by happy children in a luxurious school in Rome. Newspaper articles talk about revolutionary method and prodigy teacher. "She's a doctor in psychopedagogy," Jose Carlos explains. "Specialist in child neurological development, fluent in 9 languages, one of the most respected professionals in Europe." Pablo turns pages. each discovery shocking him more. Why would a doctor-teacher be working as a waitress? Here's why. Jose Carlos points to dramatic headlines. Tragedy in Rome. Student dies during therapy. Teacher leaves Europe after accident. Pablo reads the details of the accident with Marco, feeling compassion for the pain Rosa must have lived through. But the official investigation completely exonerated her. So she wasn't at fault? Pablo asks. None. The accident was considered a fatality. But media pressure destroyed her reputation in Europe. Meanwhile, Rosa discreetly examines Luis's medication bottles. Using her medical knowledge, she makes cloud backups of photos of each medication, notes dosages, and researches interactions. Her findings are terrifying. Luis was receiving almost adult doses of benzodiazepines, unnecessary sedatives, and a combination that could cause neurological damage. My God, Rosa whispers, comparing with old medical prescriptions she finds. Dr. Carvalho prescribed only a mild anxiolytic. Where did all these others come from? In the office, Pablo continues absorbing the information. So Rosa is exactly who Luis needs? Apparently yes. But sir, Jose Carlos hesitates. I also investigated Luis's medication as you requested. Dr. Carvalho is trying to contact you urgently. Pablo picks up the phone immediately. Dr. Carvalho answers on the first ring. Mr. Braganza, I finally discovered something very serious. Someone has been altering my prescriptions for 2 years. Luis should be taking 1/10 of his current medications. Pablo feels his blood freeze. What do you mean? The prescriptions I receive back have completely different dosages from what I prescribe. Luis is being systematically overdosed. Pablo hangs up, his mind boiling. Rosa hides qualifications that can save Luis. Margaret may be poisoning his son, but he promised Rosa total authority. At that moment, screams come from the library. Margaret waits for Rosa in the back corridor, having heard Pablo talk with the doctor. Her mask of educated housekeeper has fallen completely, revealing pure desperation. Very smart, aren't you, little doctor? Margaret spits the words with venom. Thought you could fool me forever? Rosa freezes. What are you talking about? I know exactly who you are, have for months. Rosa Bellini, famous teacher, revolutionary method and responsible for Marco Antonelli's death. Margaret smiles with malice. I researched everything when you started threatening my position. Rosa's blood runs cold. How do you think I'd allow a stranger near this family without investigating? Margaret circles Rosa like a predator. Imagine when Pablo discovers he handed his son over to a murderer. Marco died in an accident. Rosa protests. The investigation exonerated me. The official investigation, yes, but the Italian press didn't think so. Margaret laughs cruelly. I saw all the headlines. Experimental method questioned. Tragedy during therapy. Families removed children from school. Rosa leans against the wall, reliving the nightmare. The unjust accusations. The moral lynching. The guilt she carries, even knowing she had no real fault. What do you want? Rosa asks with a broken voice. Simple. You'll leave this house voluntarily tonight. Margaret approaches threateningly. Or tomorrow Pablo will receive a complete dossier about your past. Headlines, photos of the accident, dramatic testimonies. Luis needs me, Rosa whispers desperately. Luis was perfectly fine with me for 2 years. Margaret lies shamelessly. You're filling his head with dangerous techniques that already killed one child. The words hit Rosa like knives. Her greatest fear has always been causing harm to another child. And don't think about telling Pablo about the medications, Margaret whispers with poisonous satisfaction. He'll never believe a compulsive liar over me, who's cared for this family for 15 years. Margaret moves closer. You have until midnight. Leave on good terms or be exposed as a murderer, and this time I guarantee your mother at the hospital has medical complications. The final threat leaves Rosa frozen. Margaret doesn't just control the estate, she has tentacles throughout the city. Forgive me, Marco, Rosa sobs when Margaret walks away. Maybe I really am cursed to hurt children. At 5 p.m., Margaret prepares special coffee for Rosa. With experienced hands of someone who's done this before, she crushes 2 Klonopin pills and mixes them in the sugar, creating a dose that will cause mental confusion without being lethal. Dear Rosa, Margaret calls sweetly. I made you strong coffee. You must be exhausted from so much work. Rosa, still shaken by the blackmail, accepts the cup without suspecting. The coffee has a slightly bitter taste, but she attributes it to stress. 20 minutes later, during the therapy session with Louis, Rosa begins feeling strange. Her words become slurred, her movements uncoordinated. Rosa, stai bene? Louis asks worriedly, noticing the change. I'm fine, bambino, Rosa responds, but her tongue feels heavy. She tries to stand to get a book and stumbles, almost falling onto the wheelchair. At that exact moment, Pablo enters the library, still processing the revelations about Rosa's qualifications and the conversation with Dr. Carvalho. He sees Rosa staggering, eyes glazed, almost colliding with his son. Rosa, what's happening? Pablo shouts, running to protect Louis. I don't know, Rosa stammers, trying to lean on the table. I feel dizzy. Margaret appears at the door as if by coincidence. My God, she's having a crisis. Papa, qual cosa non va? Louis says nervously in Italian. Something's not right. Pablo holds Rosa by the shoulders, torn between his new understanding of her qualifications and the evidence before his eyes. Did you take something? Are you sick? No, I would never. Rosa tries to protest, but her words come out confused. Mr. Pablo. Margaret intervenes with false concern. People with traumatic pasts sometimes have episodes. Maybe the pressure of hiding her true identity. Pablo freezes. Margaret knows about Rosa's past. You're putting my son in danger. Pablo explodes. His confusion turns to rage. Get out of here. Rosa tries to explain about the medication discoveries, but the sedative leaves her incoherent. Pablo helps her leave the library, conflicted between protecting his son and his growing suspicions about Margaret. Louis, are you okay? Pablo asks his son. Yes, Papa, but Rosa? Louis looks through the window, seeing Rosa stumble in the garden. In the corridor, Rosa leans against the wall, fighting the chemical fog. A terrible certainty forms. Someone drugged her, and she knows who. Even drugged, Rosa forces her mind to function. She needs evidence before Margaret destroys her. With uncoordinated but determined movements, she heads to Margaret's office on the second floor. The door is ajar. Margaret, overconfident, didn't bother locking it. Rosa enters silently. The office is a sanctuary of obsessive control. Organized files, family photos at each stage, and a computer still on that catches her attention. Rosa accesses the computer with her background in educational technology. In the personal documents folder, she finds a dark treasure. Forged resignation letters from former employees, all young women. Carvalho's original medical prescriptions digitally altered to much higher doses. My God, Rosa whispers, uploading everything to her cloud account. She was poisoning Louis systematically. More files reveal the complete scheme. Margaret intercepted medical emails, forged reports saying Louis was getting worse, and maintained a private pharmacy of unauthorized medications. Rosa finds more shocking documents. Secret bank accounts where Margaret embezzled household money, records of lost jewelry she sold, and detailed plans to get rid of any woman who threatened her position. She's a monster, Rosa murmurs, saving each file to the cloud. Most disturbing, a file called Control contains secretly recorded audio. Margaret recorded Pablo's conversations, blackmailed other staff members, and kept dossiers on each person working in the house. Rosa even finds deleted emails where Margaret threatened doctors who questioned Louis's dosages. Dr. Carvalho had tried to reduce medication several times but received anonymous threats. Footsteps echo in the corridor. Margaret is coming upstairs. Rosa quickly sends the last file and closes the computer. When Margaret opens the door, Rosa is pretending to have stumbled near the desk. What are you doing here? Margaret screams suspiciously. I got lost, Rosa stammers, still under the drug's effect. I was looking for the bathroom. Margaret observes the computer, but it's closed normally. Get out of here now. Rosa leaves stumbling, but inside her pocket, her phone vibrates silently. Confirmation that all files were saved to the cloud. Margaret doesn't realize it, but she just lost the war. Tomorrow, Rosa whispers to herself, the truth will come out. Margaret finds Rosa in the kitchen the next morning, still unsteady but more lucid. The housekeeper decides to accelerate her destructive plans. "I hope you slept well," Margaret says with false sweetness. "Because today will be your last day here." Rosa turns, determination growing despite the fear. "Louis knows the truth about you. Louis is a confused child who spent 2 years taking medications for mental stability." Margaret replies coldly. "No one will believe a word from him." Margaret approaches threateningly. "You know what's going to happen tonight? During the charity gala in front of 300 people from New York's elite, I'm going to expose you as a child murderer." "What evidence?" Margaret smiles wickedly. "You invaded my office while drugged yesterday. Anything you claim will be discredited as hallucination or revenge." Rosa realizes the perfect trap. Even with real evidence, it will look like revenge from a fired employee. "I have lawyers, media contacts, 15 years of impeccable reputation." Margaret continues, savoring each word. "You're a lying waitress with a criminal past in Europe. You poisoned Louis for 2 years," Rosa whispers with growing indignation. "I cared for Louis," Margaret explodes, showing her instability. "I kept this family together. Pablo needs me. Louis needs me." Margaret grabs Rosa by the arm forcefully. "Tonight, during the party, your life ends forever. And if you try to harm me, I guarantee your mother at the hospital suffers fatal complications." "You can't." "I can and will," Margaret hisses. "I have contacts in every hospital in the city. A medication error, a wrong dose. Accidents happen." From the corridor, a small but firm voice says in clear English, "I heard everything." Louis is at the kitchen entrance, his eyes shining not with childish innocence but with brave determination. "Louis," Margaret forces a sweet smile. "Go back to your room, dear." "No," Louis responds simply. "I heard you threaten Rosa and her mother. I heard you confess you gave me medicines I didn't need." Margaret turns pale. The boy she controlled for 2 years is finally rebelling. "Rosa," Louis says in Italian, "questa sera mostreremo la verità a tutti." Tonight we'll show everyone the truth. The game had changed completely. Louis waits for Margaret to leave for her afternoon shopping before finding Rosa in the garden. She's sitting on a bench, mentally organizing her plan for the night. "Rosa," he says in Italian, approaching with his wheelchair. "Posso aiutare? Can I help?" Rosa looks up. "Bambino, this is too dangerous for you." "No more dangerous than letting Margaret continue," Louis responds with impressive maturity. "She hurt me for 2 years. She hurt you. She'll hurt other people." Rosa kneels beside the chair. "What do you have in mind?" "I know where she keeps important documents," Louis reveals. "In the secret drawer in her office. I saw her opening it several times when she thought I was sleeping." "Louis, I don't want you to—" "Rosa," he interrupts, taking her hand. "You taught me to be brave again. You taught me I can fight when something's wrong." Rosa feels tears welling. This boy who suffered so much trauma and forced medication is choosing to fight for justice. "Are you sure?" Rosa asks. "Absolutely sure," Louis responds in firm English. "Margaret will try to destroy you tonight, but if we have physical proof too." "I already have digital evidence," Rosa reveals. "I managed to back up files from her computer yesterday." "Then we need the physical documents too," Louis reasons. "So no one can say you invented everything." Rosa hugs the boy, admiring his courage. "You don't have to do anything risky, just tell me where the documents are." "No," Louis says firmly. "I'm going with you. It's time for Margaret to pay for what she did to me and to my mama." Rosa frowns. "Your mama?" "Margaret always said Mama died because I distracted her in the car," Louis reveals sadly. "But yesterday when you sang, I remembered the truth. Margaret was arguing with Mama. She caused the accident." Rosa is shocked. Margaret didn't just poison Louis. She may have caused his mother's death. "Tonight," Louis whispers with determination, "we're going to get justice for everyone." The moon rises, illuminating 2 unlikely warriors, a traumatized teacher and a brave child, united against an enemy who underestimated them both. "Domani sarà," Rosa whispers. Finally, the truth. The Braganza estate buzzes with elegant activity. Staff members organize expensive flower arrangements, test sound equipment, and prepare the main hall for 300 VIP guests. Pablo's annual charity gala is the most anticipated event of New York's elite. Pablo discreetly calls Dr. Carvalho. "Doctor, I need you to come to the party tonight. Bring all the documents about Lewis's original prescriptions. It's time to expose the truth. Rosa works discreetly, serving appetizers and observing Margaret's every move. The housekeeper coordinates everything with military efficiency, but Rosa notices signs of nervousness, hands trembling slightly, obsessive checks of the microphone and screen. Tonight will be perfect, Margaret murmurs to herself, testing the sound system. Absolutely perfect. In Louis's room, Rosa and the boy review their final plan. Rosa organizes the evidence on a flash drive, simplifying everything for quick presentation. Are you sure about the documents in the drawer? Rosa asks in Italian. Yes, Rosa, Louis responds simply. She always hides important papers there. Rosa checks the flash drive, altered prescriptions, photos of fraudulent bank accounts, audio of threats, evidence that would destroy Margaret. What if she tries to stop us? Louis asks with childish concern. Then your papa will help us. Rosa smiles. He already knows about the wrong medicines you were taking. In the kitchen, Margaret finishes a phone call. Yes, I want 3 journalists here at 8 o'clock. I have a story about a child murderer. At 7 p.m., the first guests arrive. Dr. Carvalho enters discreetly through the back, bringing a folder with original medical documents. Pablo receives him privately. Doctor, thank you for coming. Tonight we're going to expose what Margaret did to my son. I'm prepared, Mr. Braganza. I have all the true prescriptions I made for Louis. Margaret circulates through the hall, receiving guests with false smiles, savoring in advance her revenge against Rosa. In the library, Rosa whispers to Louis, Ready, Bambino? Ready, Rosa, Louis responds with simple courage. Let's tell the truth. The sound technician Carlos approaches Rosa discreetly. Pablo had instructed him to help her when necessary. Ms. Rosa, Carlos whispers, when you need the system, give me a signal. Rosa nods gratefully. Everything was prepared for the final revelation. The main hall has never been so elegant. 300 guests in formal attire discuss business while savoring French champagne. New York's elite at their best behavior. Margaret circulates like a queen wearing her best navy blue dress with pearls. She smiles radiantly, preparing for the destructive spectacle. Mrs. Margaret, a journalist from the New York Times approaches. What explosive story do you have for us? In a few minutes, Margaret whispers with sadistic pleasure, you'll have the headline of the year. Pablo takes the stage, grabbing the microphone for his traditional speech. The audience silences respectfully, champagne glasses in hand. Friends, thank you for being here. Pablo begins, searching for Rosa at the back of the hall. This year, our party has very special meaning. Mr. Pablo, Margaret interrupts, climbing onto the stage with determination. Before you continue, I need to make an urgent security announcement. The audience murmurs curiously. Pablo feigns surprise but was already expecting this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, Margaret announces dramatically, I regret to inform you that we have a dangerous person among us, a woman hiding a dark past. Rosa takes a deep breath at the back of the hall. Beside her, Louis is strategically positioned near the sound table, where Carlos awaits instructions. This woman is responsible for the death of an autistic child in Italy, Margaret declares, pointing at Rosa. She used experimental methods that caused the death of 8-year-old Marco Antonelli. The audience reacts with controlled shock. Elegant murmurs, not hysterical screams. New York's elite maintains composure even in the face of scandals. Rosa Bellini worked here as a waitress, lying about her identity, hiding her criminal past. Margaret continues her performance. Some guests whisper among themselves. Others observe Rosa with curiosity. The reaction is more cautious than hysterical. Pablo remains on stage, apparently shocked but ready for his part in the plan. This woman, Margaret points dramatically, put our dear Louis in danger, using the same methods that killed a child in Europe. Dr. Carvalho, strategically positioned in the hall, observes everything with professional attention. Margaret smiles triumphantly, but Louis makes a discreet signal to Carlos at the sound table. It was time for the truth. Margaret orders them to project on the screen the Italian headlines she collected. Tragedy in Rome. Accident during therapy. Teacher leaves Europe. The images are impactful against Rosa. See who we trusted with our children, Margaret declares theatrically. A woman who caused a child's death with dangerous methods. Rosa remains calm in the center of the hall. The elite's gazes are of curiosity mixed with judgment, but not total hysteria. She lied about everything. Margaret displays documents. She hid her identity, infiltrated our house, put Louis at risk. The audience reacts with elegant murmurs. Socialites whisper discreetly. Businessmen furrow their brows. Journalists note everything. How did she pass security verification? A voice questions politely. What kind of methods did she use? Another asks with controlled concern. Pablo observes from the stage, playing his role of surprised father, but internally prepared to reverse the situation. Mr. Pablo, Margaret turns with false tears. Forgive me for exposing this publicly, but I couldn't allow her to continue threatening Louis. Rosa maintains dignity, allowing Margaret to reach the peak of her performance. Each lie is being documented by the journalists present. This woman is a predator, Margaret points dramatically. She studied our family, discovered Louis's trauma, used it to infiltrate. The elite is convinced, but in a reserved way. There are no screams or loss of control, just polite disapproval and worried whispers. Margaret senses victory near when a clear voice echoes through the hall. Margaret is lying. Everyone turns. Louis appears at the entrance in his wheelchair, wearing a small suit like a gentleman. For the first time in 2 years, he's before a crowd. Luis! Pablo runs to protect his son. You shouldn't be here. Yes, Papa, Louis says simply. I should. Margaret isn't telling the truth. The hall silences. An 8-year-old child, victim of trauma, is confronting a respected housekeeper. Margaret forces a maternal smile. Dear Louis, you're confused. I'm not confused, Louis responds with simple firmness that impresses everyone. I want to tell what really happened. Louis positions his wheelchair in the center of the hall. Pablo offers him the microphone, and his childlike but clear voice echoes to 300 people. My name is Louis Braganza, he begins with seriousness. I stopped talking when my mother died. Not because I was too sad, but because Margaret said it was my fault. The audience murmurs, intrigued by this new version. Margaret gave me many medicines every day. Louis continues with simple but impactful vocabulary. She said they were to help me, but they left me very tired and confused. Dr. Carvalho discreetly approaches the stage, prepared to confirm everything. When Rosa arrived and sang to me for the first time, I could think straight, Louis explains. She didn't hurt me. She helped me. Margaret tries to interrupt. Louis, dear. Margaret talked to me when Papa wasn't around. Louis interrupts with courage. She said if I told about the extra medicines, she would hurt other people. The hall is in respectful silence. This child, clearly traumatized, is making serious accusations. She gave me medicines the doctor didn't prescribe. Louis reveals simply. I knew because I learned to read the names on the little bottles. Doctor. Carvalho climbs onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Louis' neurologist. I confirm he was receiving completely inappropriate medications for a child. This is absurd, Margaret protests, but her voice trembles. This boy has problems. He's making it up. I'm not making it up, Louis says calmly, removing a small recorder from his pocket. I recorded when you talked to me. Margaret turns pale. How did you? Louis presses play. Margaret's clear voice echoes through the hall. If you tell your father about the medicines, I'll hurt Rosa and her mother. You want that? The audience reacts with controlled but real shock. The evidence is irrefutable. Rosa helped me remember things. Louis continues bravely. Like the day my mother died. Louis, don't. Margaret tries to approach, but Pablo blocks her firmly. Margaret was fighting with my mother in the car. Louis reveals with a small but firm voice. Screaming about money. My mother got nervous and crashed the car. The silence in the hall is total. 300 people from the elite just heard a devastating confession. Rosa taught me the accident wasn't my fault, Louis concludes. It was Margaret's. All eyes turned to the housekeeper, now cornered in her own trap. The brave child had changed everything. Rosa walks calmly to the stage. Carlos, the sound technician, helps her connect her flash drive to the system. Her voice echoes clear through the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, Rosa begins professionally. Margaret is right about one thing. I lied about my identity. The audience waits, now more open after Louis's testimony. I am Rosa Bellini, doctor in psychopedagogy, specialist in child neurological development. I worked at the San Giuseppe Institute in Rome. Pablo feigns surprised and convincing, but internally smiles. The truth was finally coming out. Marco Antonelli died in a tragic accident. Rosa continues with a firm voice. The official investigation completely exonerated me, but the pain of loss brought me to America. Carlos activates the projection system. On screen appear organized and clear documents. Dr. Carvalho's original medical prescriptions compared with altered versions. Margaret modified medical prescriptions for 2 years. Rosa announces calmly. Louis should have been taking a mild anxiolytic. She was drugging him with adult doses of sedatives. Several doctors in the audience immediately recognized the severity, murmuring worriedly among themselves. Dr. Carvalho climbs onto the stage with a folder of documents. I confirm that all the prescriptions shown are forgeries of my original prescriptions. The next projection shows emails. Margaret threatening Dr. Carvalho, blackmailing other doctors, buying medications without prescriptions. She threatened any professional who tried to help Louis, Rosa reveals. More evidence appears methodically. Suspicious bank transfers, online sales of lost jewelry, documented embezzlements. 15 years exploiting this family, Rosa declares. Margaret Santos turned this house into a center of blackmail and abuse. Lies, Margaret screams desperately. She invented everything. How can I invent your own files? Rosa asks calmly, showing the last evidence. Audio secretly recorded by Margaret of private conversations. The audience is shocked in a controlled but deep way. The respected housekeeper was being exposed as a systematic criminal. Pablo takes the microphone, interpreting convincing paternal indignation. Margaret Santos, you poisoned my son. You're fired and will be arrested. Security guards approach Margaret, who is isolated in the center of the hall that once applauded her. New York's elite had witnessed the spectacular fall of a woman they'd trusted for years. Margaret, surrounded by security guards and accusing stares, has a partial mental breakdown. Years of lies crumble, but she still tries to defend herself. You don't understand, she screams, losing composure. I cared for this family, I kept everything running. Pablo approaches, controlling his rage. Cared? You poisoned my son for 2 years. Louis was difficult, Margaret explodes, revealing instability. After Maria Helena died, he cried constantly, asked questions. He needed discipline. Discipline? Dr. Carvalho intervenes, horrified. You drugged a traumatized child. He got better, Margaret insists desperately. Quiet, no problems. Rosa ruined everything. Rosa approaches courageously. Why do this to an innocent child? Margaret laughs bitterly. You think Pablo would notice me if Louis were normal and independent? The confession shocks everyone. Margaret deliberately kept Louis sick to remain necessary. Maria Helena started to suspect, Margaret admits partially. She asked questions about expenses, about some pieces that disappeared. So you provoked the accident? Pablo asks tensely. I didn't provoke anything. Margaret denies, but then slips. I was just explaining that discovering certain things would be bad for everyone. She got upset. It's not a complete confession, but enough to implicate her in Maria Helena's death. And then? Louis says with a small voice. You said it was my fault. Because it was simpler. Margaret responds without thinking, then realizes the error. The audience is in silence, shocked. Margaret just self-incriminated partially. 15 years I dedicated, Margaret continues, losing control. And you were going to replace me with a stranger? You were a parasite, Pablo says with controlled disgust, destroying my family from the inside. Margaret tries a final card. Without me, Louis will regress. You'll be lost. Never again, Rosa says firmly. Will you touch this child? Security guards handcuff Margaret while she murmurs incoherent threats. Her partial confession was heard by 300 important witnesses. There was no escape. With Margaret being escorted out, Rosa can finally tell her complete story. Pablo offers her the microphone with renewed respect. Now that the truth about Margaret has been revealed, Rosa begins, I owe you my real story. The hall is respectfully attentive. After witnessing such drama, everyone wants to understand this extraordinary woman. I'm the daughter of Italian immigrants in the Bronx. My nonna raised me bilingual and encouraged me to study. I got a scholarship to Europe where I specialized in special children. Rosa looks at Pablo with total honesty. I developed multilingual therapy methods that helped hundreds of children. Marco was my greatest success, an autistic boy who flourished with my guidance. She takes a deep breath, controlling emotion. On the day of his death, Marco ran away during a storm to save a cat. I ran after him, almost reached him, but he was hit by a car. The investigation exonerated me, but guilt destroyed me. Some guests are visibly moved by Rosa's honesty. I returned to America, financially and emotionally broken. Working as a waitress was my penance, a way to punish myself, hiding my talents. Pablo approaches, his genuine guilt showing through. Rosa, why didn't you tell from the beginning? Because I was afraid of failing with another child, Rosa admits. When I saw Louis quiet in the library, I saw Marco again. I couldn't resist trying to help. Dr. Carvalho confirms. Rosa's methods saved Louis. Without her intervention, neurological damage could have been permanent. Rosa taught me to be strong, Louis says simply. She never hurt me. She helped me remember I'm intelligent. Pablo kneels before Rosa with real humility. Forgive me. I doubted when I should have trusted. You saved my son. Pablo. Rosa uses his name for the first time. You were protecting Louis. Any father would do the same. Rosa gently touches his face. You had no way of knowing. The hall erupts in sincere applause. The transformation is complete. Rosa went from accused to heroine through truth. Rosa, Louis asks hopefully, will you stay with us? Rosa looks at Pablo, who whispers, please, not as staff, but as family. Rosa's smile illuminates the entire hall. Si, bambino. Forever. Justice had triumphed, and a new family was being born. 6 months later, Margaret Santos is in a cell awaiting trial. The charges are serious: poisoning of a minor, embezzlement, threats, and participation in Maria Helena's death. Her arrest became a national case. Other elite families began investigating former employees fired by Margaret, discovering a pattern of destruction that lasted years. At the Braganza estate, life changed completely. Louis, free from unnecessary medications, demonstrates natural intelligence. He studies piano, speaks 3 languages, and helps Rosa in a special project. Rosa. Pablo finds her in the library organizing teaching materials. The lawyers brought news. Rosa stops organizing and turns. Pablo holds official documents. Margaret goes to trial in 3 months. The prosecution is working with 15 to 20 years in prison for proven crimes. And the other families? Rosa asks worriedly. 12 former employees have already given testimony. Margaret's pattern affected many people. Pablo sits beside Rosa. She won't hurt anyone else. Dr. Carvalho enters with a satisfied smile. Louis is officially recovered. Tests show 0 neurological damage. Complete medical success. It wasn't just medicine, Rosa smiles humbly. It was love, patience, and science applied correctly. Louis appears, animated. Rosa, I finished my essay about our adventure. Rosa takes the notebook. How Rosa Saved Our Family by Louis Braganza. Rosa isn't a common teacher. She's a disguised angel who came to save us. Pablo feels genuine emotion. Perfect, son. Rosa, Louis continues enthusiastically. Papa has a surprise for you. Pablo stands, slightly nervous. Rosa, you transformed our lives completely. Louis has a family again. I rediscovered hope. Rosa smiles encouragingly, noticing his nervousness. I want to offer more than partnership at the Institute. Pablo continues, taking a deep breath. I want to offer my heart, if you'll accept forming a family with us. Rosa looks at Louis, who nods enthusiastically, then at Pablo, whose eyes shine with genuine love. Yes, she whispers emotionally. I accept everything. Hugs, tears of joy, laughter. The family was finally complete. Outside, the New York sun shines over a new chance at happiness, built on truth, justice, and unconditional love. Love had conquered evil forever. The hall at the Braganza estate still echoes with applause from 300 guests. Pablo, still on stage, takes the microphone with hands trembling from emotion and nervousness. "Ladies and gentlemen," he begins, his voice gaining strength. "Before we end this extraordinary night, I need to do something I should have done long ago." The audience, still processing the dramatic events, silences respectfully. Rosa looks surprised from the center of the hall. "Rosa Bellini," Pablo calls her, extending his hand. "Please, come here." Rosa hesitates, but Louis encourages her. "Go, Rosa. Papa has something important to say." She walks to the stage under the curious gazes of New York's elite. Pablo helps her climb, holding her hands tenderly. "This extraordinary woman," Pablo says into the microphone but looking directly at Rosa, "didn't just save my son, she saved our entire family. She taught me that true value isn't in titles or money, but in the capacity to love unconditionally." Rosa feels tears welling. The sincerity in Pablo's voice is undeniable. "Rosa, you came to our house as a waitress, but you were a disguised angel. You brought back my son's voice, the light in his eyes, and filled our home with hope again." Pablo kneels on stage before everyone. The audience whispers, moved by the gesture. "I love you, Rosa. Not for what you did for Louis, but for who you are. Your kindness, your courage, your capacity to forgive even when I was unjust." Pablo removes a ring from his pocket. "Will you marry me? Will you officially become part of our family?" The hall is in absolute silence. Rosa looks at Pablo kneeling, then at Louis, who nods enthusiastically from the side of the stage. "Pablo," she whispers, but the microphone amplifies her voice. "How can I trust again? How do I know you won't doubt me again when difficulties arise?" The honest question echoes through the hall, showing Rosa's vulnerability after everything she went through. Pablo remains kneeling, his eyes shining with sincere tears. "Rosa, you have every right to doubt. I failed you when you most needed support." He stands, still holding the ring, and looks directly in her eyes. "But I promise I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserve your trust, not just as a husband, but as a true partner in everything." Rosa feels her heart racing. Pablo's honesty is palpable, but the fear of being hurt again makes her hesitate. "Papa loves you for real." Louis approaches with his wheelchair, speaking into the microphone with childish seriousness. "He cried a lot when you left and apologized to me for not believing in you." Pablo confirms emotionally. "Louis is right. I realized that without you, our house went back to being just an empty mansion. You transformed it into a home." Rosa looks around the hall. 300 people await her answer, but she focuses only on the two men before her. "Rosa," Pablo continues, "I'm not just offering marriage. I'm offering true partnership. We'll create together a project to help special children. Your knowledge, my structure, and Louis' love as inspiration." Dr. Carvalho approaches the stage. "Rosa, as a doctor I can affirm, what you have is rare. Love based on mutual respect and common goals." Rosa takes a deep breath, looking at the simple but elegant ring. "Pablo, I accept marrying you. Not for security, not for gratitude, but because I saw your true heart today." She extends her hand and he places the ring carefully, reverently. "And I accept being your partner in everything. In the project we're going to create, in raising Louis, in building a family based on love and honesty." Louis shouts in Italian, "Evviva! Rosa will be my mama!" The hall explodes in sincere applause. New York's elite just witnessed not only the exposure of a criminal but the birth of a genuine family. "When will we get married?" Pablo asks, smiling. "When you and Louis think the time is right," Rosa responds, hugging the boy. "Soon." Louis laughs, making everyone laugh too. The healing was complete. 4 months later, in a simple house in Queens, Margaret Santos wears a blue cleaning uniform. At 54 years old, she discovered what it's like to live on the other side of the employer-employee relationship. "Margaret," the homeowner calls sharply, "don't forget to wash well behind the refrigerator, and be careful with my objects." "Yes, ma'am," Margaret responds, swallowing her pride. Ironically, she now understands what Rosa felt when being humiliated. On the crowded bus going to work, she sees headlines in the newspapers. "Criminal housekeeper awaits trial," and "Braganza family builds institute for children." A photo shows Rosa, Pablo, and Louis visiting special children. Rosa is radiant, Pablo proud, Louis smiling. The family Margaret tried to destroy now flourishing. How horrible what she did to that child, comments a passenger. How can someone poison a child? Margaret lowers her head, pretending not to hear. Each glance of recognition on the street is a reminder of her fall. At work, the employer treats her with professional coldness. There's no excessive cruelty, just the reality of being a common employee, without privileges or power. Margaret, today you clean the bathrooms. And remember, don't use the guest bathroom. The words echo cruelly. She used to say this to Rosa. At night in her small but clean room, Margaret counts the money she earned. Enough to live with dignity, but without the luxuries she stole for years. On the small television, she watches an interview with Pablo. Rosa is helping plan a support center for special children. Her multilingual teaching method is showing extraordinary results. Margaret turns off the TV, feeling the weight of irony. The woman she tried to destroy is building a legacy of hope. There's no excessive hatred in her punishment, just the reality of living honestly for the first time in decades. The true punishment isn't humiliation, but the awareness of the good she could have done if she'd chosen love instead of control. On Monday, she'll face a trial that will define years in prison. But her real prison has already begun, living knowing she wasted 15 years hurting innocent people. The fall was just and necessary. 10 months after the party that changed everything, the chapel at the Braganza estate is decorated with simple but elegant flowers. Rosa chose daisies and white roses, symbols of purity and new beginnings. Only 40 intimate guests are present. Dr. Carvalho, loyal staff members, some of Pablo's colleagues, and Donna Bellini, Rosa's mother, finally recovered from diabetes and radiant with happiness. My daughter is beautiful, Donna whispers in Italian, adjusting Rosa's simple veil. Your Nana would be so proud. Rosa wears a discreet white dress without exaggerations. Her beauty comes from the genuine happiness she radiates. Thank you for being here, Mama. I know it wasn't easy to accept all the changes. This man truly loves you. Donna smiles. And Louis, he's the grandson I always dreamed of having. At the chapel door, Louis waits proudly in his small tuxedo, holding the rings on a velvet cushion. He insisted on being the ring bearer, a role he considers a special honor. Rosa, he whispers when she approaches, you're beautiful, come un angelo. Beautiful like an angel. Grazie bambino mio, Rosa responds, kissing his forehead affectionately. Pablo is at the altar wearing a simple suit, his eyes shining as he sees Rosa walk toward him. There's no excessive pomp, just genuine love being celebrated. The priest, a family friend for decades, conducts the ceremony with touching simplicity. Pablo and Rosa, you met through difficult circumstances but built love based on truth and mutual respect. During the vows, Pablo declares, Rosa, I promise never to doubt you again. I promise to be a true partner, not just a husband. Our house will always be a place of love and honesty. Rosa responds with an emotional voice. Pablo, I promise to love you and Louis unconditionally. I promise to transform our house into a home full of laughter, music, and hope. When they exchange rings, Louis exclaims naturally, now we're a real family. The chapel laughs emotionally. Dr. Carvalho wipes tears discreetly. I declare you husband and wife, the priest announces. You may kiss the bride. The kiss is gentle, respectful, full of future promises. Louis applauds enthusiastically. Viva Mama Rosa! The guests applaud warmly. Photographs capture the perfect moment. Where are we going on the honeymoon? Pablo asks. Rosa smiles. I want to show Louis where I worked and visit Marco's grave with our new family. 18 months after the wedding, Rosa is visibly pregnant at 4 months while coordinating renovation work on a large house in Brooklyn. The future Braganza Bellini Center is taking shape. Rosa, you shouldn't be carrying those boxes, Pablo reprimands affectionately, taking teaching materials from her hands. I'm pregnant, not sick, she laughs but accepts the help. I want everything ready to receive the first children. Louis, now 10 years old, helps organize children's books in multiple languages. Rosa, when our little sister is born, will she come work here too? When she grows up and wants to help? Rosa smiles, touching her belly. But first, she needs to learn to walk. The center started modestly. a renovated house to serve 20 special children. Initially, Rosa will apply her multilingual methods but with realistic expectations. Dr. Carvalho confirmed participation as a volunteer consultant, Pablo informs, checking the volunteer list. And we got city approval for operation. How many children on the waiting list, Rosa asks. 15 interested families. We'll start slowly as planned. Rosa observes the main room being painted with cheerful colors. Marco would be happy knowing his example is inspiring this. I'm sure he would. Pablo hugs her from behind, protecting mother and baby. Dr. Carvalho arrives for the final inspection. Rosa, the therapy equipment arrived. Nothing too sophisticated, but adequate to start. Perfect. We don't need expensive technology. We need love and patience. Louis runs, animated. Rosa, the first class arrives next week. Ready, Bambino? Rosa asks. Very ready. I'm going to teach Italian to everyone. Rosa hugs Louis, feeling the baby kick in her belly. I think she's excited too. Pablo observes his wife and son organizing their dream, his heart overflowing with gratitude. The center is small, but it's the real beginning of something special. It's going to work, he whispers. It will, Rosa confirms, looking around. Love always works. It wasn't an educational empire yet, but it was concrete hope for families who needed it. That was enough to start. 3 years after the wedding, Rosa walks through the Braganza Bellini Center, holding Helena, her 8-month-old daughter, while observing Louis, now 12 years old, helping a 6-year-old autistic child form his first words in English. Very good, Peter. Louis encourages patiently. Now try saying thank you in Italian. Grazie. Peter babbles, and Louis celebrates as if it were the greatest achievement in the world. The center grew organically, now serving 50 children in 2 neighboring houses, but maintains the warm, welcoming atmosphere Rosa always dreamed of. How are the first-year results? Pablo asks, arriving with a medical report. Dr. Carvalho documented progress in 80% of the children. Rosa responds proudly, gently rocking Helena. They're not miracles, but they're real sustainable progress. And the university's interested in the method? NYU wants to do an official study, Rosa smiles. And we received an invitation to present results at a pediatrics conference. Helena babbles something that sounds like mama in Italian, making Rosa laugh. I think she's already learning. Louis approaches, animated. Rosa, Peter managed to sing Nina Nana completely. Want to hear? Of course, Bambino. They head to the music room where Peter timidly sings the same song that transformed Louis's life years ago. Rosa feels tears of emotion. Marco would be proud. She whispers to Pablo. He is, Pablo responds, kissing her forehead. That afternoon, the family visits the cemetery where Rosa placed a simple plaque. Marco Antonelli. His memory inspires the Braganza Bellini Center. Marco, Rosa speaks in Italian, questa è Helena, e Luis è cresciuto tanto. Il centro aiuta tanti bambini ora. This is Helena. Luis has grown so much, and the center helps many children now. Luis deposits a new drawing, children of various nationalities playing together. He'd be happy to know you don't have nightmares anymore, Rosa. I really don't, Rosa confirms, realizing it's true. Only good dreams now. Returning home, Helena sleeps in Rosa's lap while Luis practices piano. Pablo works on proposals for careful expansion, maybe a second center in Boston in 2 years. We're happy, Rosa states, looking through the window at the garden where it all began. Very happy, Pablo agrees, hugging his family. Louis stops playing piano and joins the hug. And Helena will grow up in a real family. Rosa looks at the starry New York sky. From traumatized waitress to beloved wife, dedicated mother and respected educator. The suffering had purpose, not just to save Louis, but to create a circle of love that gently expands. L'amor vince sempre, she whispers as she did years ago. Love always wins. But now she truly believes it. Did you like this story? Tell me in the comments what you would do with Margaret.